General Hospital spoilers for the week of June 16th to 20th state that Willow Corinthos and Drew Kane will suffer after a terrible blow, while Jason Morgan Snoops and Jocelyn Jacks faces an emergency situation. For starters, GH viewers will witness the repercussions of Willow and Michael Corinthos' custody battle. You can bet that the losing side will have strong emotions and protests after Judge Eva Heron's verdict. Thanks to Cameron Matheson's Instagram leak, we know someone will blackmail Judge Heron into giving Michael the win. Whether Tracy Quartermain is to blame or someone else is concerned about the outcome of the court case, Michael is determined to obtain custody of the children. That will hurt Willow and leave Drew furious, ready to go off the rails in the following episodes. Nina Reeves will also be involved, resulting in a lot of post-courtroom mayhem. Meanwhile, Marco Rios will deal with the news of Natalia Ramirez's legal difficulties and rely on Lucas Jones during his family crisis. Sonny Corinthos will have additional challenges now that ADA Justine Turner is so determined to pursue him. Sonny and Jason may find themselves in hot water as a result. Speaking of Jason, he'll conduct some digging for Anna Devane after promising to examine Professor Henry Hank Dalton. That could lead to some surprise clues and unavoidably place Jocelyn in a precarious situation that raises suspicion. When Jocelyn realizes Jason is looking for information, she has to worry about him botching her WSB mission or ruining her secret if he discovers too much. Carly Spencer has been preoccupied with Michael's custody hearing lately, but she will devote some time to Jack Brennan once everything is settled. Brennan will get a surprise present that demonstrates Carly's strong affections and improves their bond. Jocelyn's friendship with Vaughn will also grow stronger, as they eventually find themselves in a circumstance that draws them closer together. Could a lip lock develop sooner or later? Emma Scorpio Drake will put herself in danger with her seduction plan. It's not a good idea to lead Professor Dalton on, but Emma is doing just that, and the consequences might be terrible if she isn't careful. Nonetheless, Emma is determined to worm her way inside the lab and discover all of Professor Dalton's secrets. It will be interesting to see whether Jocelyn interferes with Emma's intentions, or the other way around. General Hospital spoilers predict the week of June 16th to 20th will offer some surprises and shakeups, so keep with us for updates on all the mayhem. As the new week began, tension rose throughout Port Charles, and Willow and Drew felt the brunt of it. What began as a peaceful, hopeful morning quickly turned into a crushing blow that none of them anticipated. For weeks, they had tried to safeguard everything they had established, both personally and professionally, clinging to the hope that they could maintain routine. However, that illusion was destroyed when a single call from Pentonville altered everything. Drew's face tightened in disbelief as he brought the phone to his ear, Willow standing immediately behind him. Her palm grasped his arm, detecting a change in his energy before she heard the voice on the other end. The news was direct, clinical, and completely devastating. The federal investigation into ELQ had been reopened, and Drew's name was once again on the radar, not just as a witness, but as a potential co-conspirator. Willow pressed for information, her voice weak. Drew attempted to soften the reality, but it was evident. The immunity pact they thought was secure had fallen through. Someone had reopened the files, and someone with power was purposefully bringing Drew back into legal trouble. Willow's heart fell. After everything they had been through, Nina's treachery, the conflict with Michael, the hospital politics, this was something they couldn't repair with a chat or a cleverly worded press statement. But that wasn't the worst part. Willow got her own dose of heartbreak just hours later. GH's funding committee privately informed her that the research project she had been working on will be terminated and redirected to another division with more political clout. Her application had been highly graded, and her credentials were unparalleled, but someone higher up had promoted a different narrative. The only time she had something just for herself, it was taken away by decisions made in backrooms. Between Drew's legal troubles and her professional setback, the two found themselves sitting in silence, staring at each other, not angry or spiteful, simply shattered. They weren't the only ones caught up in the tumult. Across town, Jason Morgan was on the move. Though he'd kept his distance since his return, working quietly and remaining low, something this week threw his instincts into overdrive. Sonny was alienating his allies, Michael was threatening to depart with the children, and Ava was once again teetering on the brink of power. Jason had seen these types of storms before and knew better than to wait for them to pass. He needed answers. and someone was not being truthful. Jason began watching from the shadows, old habits resurfacing like muscle memory. He tracked a trail of quiet meetings, odd financial activity, and a name he hadn't heard in years that appeared in encrypted phone logs. Brick verified it first. Someone was working against the Corinthos family from within. Jason didn't say anything, and he didn't need to. His silence was its own form of proclamation. He went to Carly under the guise of checking in, but his queries sliced through the pleasant conversation. Did she notice anything weird about Sunny? Had she heard from Michael recently? Carly did not respond at first, but her reluctance screamed volumes. She knew something or suspected something, and Jason understood at that point that the house of cards was closer to collapsing than anyone thought. But before he could take any further action, the ground shifted again, this time with Jocelyn. Jocelyn had been juggling her studies, her relationship with Dex, and her expanding participation at the hospital. She was resolved to emerge from the long shadow cast by her family's past and shine in her own light. But as the week progressed, signs of stress began to emerge. Headaches transformed into migraines. A fall in the hospital was dismissed as dizziness. Dex became increasingly concerned, but Jocelyn shrugged him off, claiming she was simply tired. That refusal cost her more than she expected. It happened quickly. She felt a severe pain in her side during her shift, followed by immediate nausea. She tried to persevere, but her body had other plans. She fainted immediately outside the nurse's station, sending alarm through GH. Elizabeth was the first to reach her, requesting a gurney. Finn and Portia arrived on the scene within minutes. Tests were ordered, emergency procedures were activated, and Dex was summoned. His face paled as he saw her unconscious on the hospital bed. The diagnosis was not immediate, but the concern was genuine. Something was wrong, possibly terrible, and no one knew how long Jocelyn had been ignoring her symptoms. Carly was contacted next, and her reaction was purely maternal. She went to the hospital, seeking answers and barely holding it together as she witnessed her daughter's vulnerability. However, underlying the fear came guilt. Carly had been so preoccupied with Sunny's unraveling and the Jason fallout that she hadn't realized how much pressure Jocelyn was under on her own. As the testing progressed and Jocelyn remained unconscious, old wounds reopened. Carly and Dex had a brief dispute, with each blaming themselves in different ways. Michael arrived later, his own world collapsing, and seeing his sister in this way almost broke him. He sat by her bedside, squeezing her hand and apologizing for not being present when she needed him the most. Despite the turmoil, not everyone was alarmed. Sunny, still mired in his own quagmire of mistrust and paranoia, was noticeably absent. Word was sent to him, but he did not respond. And for those in the hospital, the quiet spoke more than any visit. Meanwhile, Jason continued excavating. He had a name now. A DOJ leak traced back to Valentine via a proxy firm involved in both the ELQ probe and the hospital funding board. Drew's legal issues, Willow's project shutdown, and potentially the growing friction inside GH were all linked. Someone was pulling strings in the background, and their goal was to gradually erode the Quartermain family's foundation. Jason made a choice that night. He would confront Valentine. Not as a friend, not as a previous ally, but as someone who saw how far corruption might spread if no one stopped it. Before the week finished, Jason would push Valentine to answer for what he knew, or face the consequences. Drew tried to protect Willow from further suffering, but she wouldn't have it. She preferred to stand with him rather than be protected from the storm. Their late-night chat at the Quartermain estate was raw, honest, and full of deep dread. They both understood things may become worse before they got better. Months of family betrayal had strained their trust, yet it still held, albeit just barely. Willow revealed something she hadn't before. She was terrified. Not only for Drew, but for the future they were attempting to establish. Every time they tried to breathe, another fire started. And this time it was more than just survival. It was about whether they could continue battling without losing themselves in the process. Back at the hospital, Jocelyn stirred briefly, but enough to give the doctors hope. Her vitals stabilized, and while the cause was still being investigated, there was some temporary respite. But the larger concerns remained. Was this merely tiredness or something far more serious? And if that was the truth, would she tell it? The week concludes on cliffhangers throughout the canvas. Jason, confronting Valentine in a private meeting, is tense and could explode at any moment. Drew is pondering a legal approach that may require him to turn against someone close to him. Willow was alone in her lab, staring at the closed grant notice on her screen with tears in her eyes. Jocelyn is sleeping in a hospital bed, unconscious that her dilemma is the spark that will rekindle every familial fault line. Michael is divided between escape and confrontation, as he sees his world spiral further into disaster. Nobody is safe. No secret remains hidden, and the decisions taken this week will reverberate well beyond Port Charles. General Hospital spoilers and updates indicate that the countdown to a baby kidnapping has begun. Let's talk about why Michael Corinthos and Sasha Corbin's newborn may be in danger. Now that she has arrived, fans are aware that Port Charles is sometimes a dangerous location, so we must be cautious. Baby Daisy could become a target at any time. Sasha and Michael recently welcomed their adorable newborn daughter, which means she could soon become a target. After all, Daisy Corbin Corinthos' parents have a troubled history. Jen Sidwell kidnapped Sasha as a result of Holly Sutton's actions, so keep that in mind. Even if Sasha signed a lucrative agreement with him, we can't trust Sidwell not to make another move if things go wrong. Sidwell has demonstrated a willingness to use kidnapping to achieve his goals. Therefore, it is completely feasible that he will steal Sasha and Michael's baby girl in the future. Holly could land in another jam, which could blow back on her new granddaughter. Holly may find herself in yet another scenario that will have a negative impact on her new grandchild in the future. Naturally, we must evaluate the threat posed by Michael and his family. Michael was involved in a penthouse explosion planned for Sonny Corinthos, which is a crucial fact to remember. What happens if Sonny's enigmatic nemesis grows tired of all the failed attempts to eliminate him? Daisy, Sonny's new grandchild, may be kidnapped as part of a fatal conspiracy. What better method to encourage Sonny to end his life than kidnapping Michael's daughter? A newborn kidnapping could be the event that forces Sonny to embrace a horrible fate. Of course, Jason Morgan could come to the rescue, but there may still be some difficult moments concerning the baby, depending on how things play out. Ultimately, kidnapping is essentially a rite of passage for infants in soap operas, so it's only a matter of time before Michael and Sasha's child is snatched away. Upcoming ABC soap spoilers indicate that more baby-related drama is on the way, so keep a watch out for any unpleasant news about Sasha and Michael's family. That evening, the Corinthos family mansion was abnormally quiet, as if to warn you. Michael paced the living room, clutching his phone tightly and checking for missed calls and updates. Each second felt longer than the last. Sasha had taken baby Jonah and Daisy for a brief walk, just to clear her mind, she explained, but it had been more than an hour. Too long. His heart thudded against his ribs as he recalled his last discussion with Sasha. She had sounded off, distracted. However, Sasha has been acting this way frequently since the anonymous threats began. They initially dismissed them as the work of a deranged online troll, someone enraged by the family name or the baby's inheritance. Daisy then received a small parcel in the mail at the deception office, containing a pacifier and a solitary letter that read, "Keep the baby safe. Time's almost up." This was not a joke. That was personal. Michael tightened his grasp on his phone as Drew entered with a nasty frown. "Is there still nothing?" Michael shakes his head. "No texting. No calls. I am trying not to panic, but..." Drew crossed the room with a heavy sigh. "She should have been back by now. We have people out looking. Dante is inspecting traffic cameras. Willow is calling everyone Sasha knows. We are going to find her. I keep thinking that I should have gone with them. Perhaps I should not have let them leave the grounds at all." "You can't always protect everyone," Drew murmured, resting a firm hand on Michael's shoulder. "However, you can be ready when it matters. And now it matters." Sasha hugged Jonah tightly to her chest as she rounded another corner, her pulse hammering faster with each step. What began as a leisurely stroll across the park has devolved into a maze of paranoia. She could feel someone looking at her. The same man in the gray hoodie had been following her for blocks, always in the background, just far enough away to appear innocent, but too persistent to ignore. She cast a glance back. Daisy is missing. The young sitter had walked inside a little store seconds before, merely to look at a baby blanket in the window. Sasha didn't want to quit. She had felt it then. An icy intuition that she and Jonah needed to keep moving. She regretted not dragging Daisy back. "Okay, baby, it's okay," she said softly to Jonah, who squirmed in her arms, sensing her anxiety. Suddenly, the man in the hoodie gained speed. He crossed the street in her direction, and Sasha turned and ran. She dashed down the pavement, evading surprised bystanders, her heart pounding as she darted into an alley and hid behind a dumpster. She didn't care if she looked crazy. She needed to hide. She scrambled for her phone, her hands shaking too much to open the screen. Her instinct told her to phone Michael Dante and scream for rescue. However, the sound of hurried footsteps closing in caused everything to freeze. Just as she was bracing herself for the worst, another figure came at the end of the alley. Daisy, out of breath and wild-eyed. "Sasha! I saw him! Come on!" Sasha did not hesitate. She jumped to her feet, baby in tow, and dashed into the opposite end of the alley. As they came into traffic, a car slid to a halt, with the driver shouting obscenities as Sasha and Daisy dashed to the sidewalk. The man behind them did not give chase. He did not have to, because by the time Sasha arrived to the cafe around the block, where she felt somewhat protected, her phone buzzed with a message that chilled her blood. "Nice run. I'll make sure not to miss next time. Tell Michael we're only getting started." Back at the estate, Michael's phone displayed the same message. He read it quietly, his jaw clenching so hard Drew had to take the phone from him. "This changes everything," Drew mumbled. "We are not dealing with a threat. We are dealing with a plan." Michael nodded slowly. "This was only a test run. They are watching us. They're becoming braver. We need to lock this building down. Move Sasha and the baby. And Daisy. Especially Daisy," Michael remarked grimly. "If they think she's a weak link, they'll go for her." And they were correct. Daisy, while valiant, was plainly shaken. She sat on the couch next Sasha, her gaze riveted on the door. "I swear he was eyeing the boutique window before I entered. As if he knew I would stop there." Sasha's voice was a whisper. "Do you think this is about the baby or about me?" Michael responded without hesitation. "This is not about you. Not really. It is about power. Control. Someone wants to send a message. And we are the message board." Drew gazed at them both. "Then we send one back. Starting now." He called Carly, who promptly organized a private security team. Jason was unavailable, still embroiled in his own battles, but Brick volunteered his support right away. Within hours, the mansion was under more intense monitoring than ever. Still, it didn't seem like enough. Because the next morning a new message arrived, this time in the form of a little envelope pinned to the rear gate. Inside is a single baby sock and a Polaroid photograph of Daisy, asleep, vulnerable. The reverse of the photograph read, "You blinked. Don't do it again." Sasha broke down as soon as she saw it. They took the image from her room's window. "Look at the angle. That means they were here. They have been here." Michael grabbed the envelope and raced into the kitchen, where Drew was reviewing tape. "We have a breach. They were on the property last night." "No alarms tripped," Drew answered, his voice tense. "That suggests someone passed through a blind area. Or someone let them in." The concept hit hard. The idea of an inside job made everyone suspicious. Sasha and Daisy were transported to Carly's residence and placed under 24-hour guard, while Jonah was kept even closer. But it did not relieve the anxiety. In fact, things worsened. Michael tried to be strong, but he couldn't shake the gnawing anxiety in his chest. What if they wanted Jonah to take something they could never get back rather than send a message? And what if that moment was closer than they all thought? The following incident changed everything. This occurred during a normal check-in. Daisy's appointed guard mysteriously left from his post, with no call or radio. Nothing. When they checked the videos, he was seen answering the phone, walking around the corner, and never returning. Daisy received a text message a few hours later on her personal phone, which she had kept turned off for the most part. It said, "You were supposed to be watching Jonah. You failed." Attached was a fuzzy photograph of an empty car seat. Daisy shrieked, her heart sinking into her gut. But a quick call revealed that Jonah was still secure in Sasha's arms. The snapshot was not recent. It was a fear technique. But it worked. Michael erupted. "This is over now. I'm finished playing defense. Do you have a plan? Drew inquired, ready. I want to make a bogus transfer. Make it look like we're relocating Sasha and Jonah to the Quartermain estate. Let's see if they attempt to intercept. We set up a trap for them, and we apprehend the perpetrator. It was hazardous. Sasha hesitated. She ultimately agreed. I just want this to end. I want Jonah to grow up without bodyguards in every room. Preparations started. A decoy SUV was set up. 2 guards disguised as Sasha and Daisy. A second van transported the actual passengers, although it never left the estate grounds. As planned, the decoy SUV was apprehended 2 blocks from the house. A van slammed it from the side. Masked individuals appeared with accuracy and speed, opening the SUV doors before discovering the passengers were not who they expected. One of them cried into a walkie-talkie, "Abort! It's a setup!" But it was too late. Police and private protection encircled them. 2 individuals were apprehended at the scene. The others got away, but the message was clear. They were getting close. Later that night, with Daisy and Sasha safe, Michael stood alone in the crib watching Jonah sleep. The baby's chest rose and fell gently, unconcerned about the mayhem surrounding his small world. Drew walked in gently. We got one of the guys to speak. A low-level hired hand. He has no idea who paid him. All he knows is that the objective was to intimidate, not steal, yet. Yet, Michael said, his voice flat. That means it's still coming. It might, Drew acknowledged. But we are ready. And they made a mistake by revealing their hands. We will follow the money. We will find out who ordered this. General Hospital teasers indicate that a preview clip has been released for Wednesday, June 11, 2025. Drew Kane is cocky and overconfident as usual. Meanwhile, Michael Corinthos intends to take his children out of the country. Continue reading to learn more about what will happen in today's episode of ABC soap drama. Let us begin with the custody battle. The judge is attempting to decide which decision to make. Meanwhile, Drew informs Nina Reeves and Willow Tate Corinthos that once the truth is revealed, the game is done. However, just Drew's desired portion of the truth has been revealed. However, Drew is not the only one who believes they have already won. Michael is likewise sure that he will be granted full and sole custody of Wiley and Amelia Corinthos. In a preview of today's episode, Michael surprises Carly Spencer, Sonny Corinthos, and Jason Morgan by revealing his plans. Michael intends to take the children out of the country once he has custody. However, there is reason to suspect that neither Drew nor Willow will have complete custody. General Hospital spoilers reveal Kai Taylor's confession to Trina Robinson. Kai will acknowledge that he overheard an inappropriate conversation. The young pair will strategize, but what will they do about the Curtis Ashford and Portia Robinson situation? Over with Jordan Ashford, she attempts to persuade someone to trust her with something. This could be Jen Sidwell, and the project could be critical to this purpose. Speaking of Curtis, he summons Felicia Scorpio to inquire about an assignment. Felicia accepts, so this may be about finding Jacinda. Felicia will immediately begin searching for the escort worker after accepting the task. Will Felicia be able to locate her? And what does this imply for Drew, Willow, Nina, Portia, and the other characters? Finally, Martin Gray warns that Tracy Quartermain may need him sooner rather than later. So it appears that Martin has a plan in place and is pushing forward with it. Drew Kane entered the scene with a confidence bordering on arrogance, relying on the fact that the bombshell, Michael's secret relationship with Sasha and the presence of their child, had already been revealed. He assured Nina and Willow without hesitation that once the truth was revealed, the game was finished. For him, this revelation damaged Michael's image and established Willow's right to sole custody. He reiterated his message as if rehearsed. As soon as the truth came out, game over, which he transmitted smugly to Willow and Nina. His posture oozed confidence. For him, it was a checkmate moment in the custody battle. He assumed the judge's judgment had already been made, ensuring his win. Drew's deliberate approach, on the other hand, irritated Nina. She was enraged both at the legal deception and at the emotional suffering imposed on her grandson Wiley. Nina didn't hesitate to call him out, accusing him of playing with Wiley's emotions and jeopardizing any chance of family reunification. Drew's proposal struck her as adolescent and ruthless, creating severe ethical and psychological concerns. Wesley worried about her emotional well-being. Meanwhile, Port Charles prepared for Michael Corinthos' cataclysmic revelation. Confident that he'd finally succeed in custody, Michael stated to Carly, Jason, and Sonny that he intended to take Wiley, Amelia, and possibly even his newborn daughter Daisy out of the country. He wasn't just talking about picking up stakes in the United States, he was planning a full-scale escape. His statement rattled Carly, Jason, and Sonny to the core. Carly, protective and deeply maternal, tried to turn down his emotionally driven plan. Jason, guarded yet encouraging, attempted to consider the legal consequences. Sonny, the patriarch, was concerned about the possibility of a father escaping with 2 children and the resulting charges or reputational damage. However, desperation lurked behind Michael's determined expression. His daughter Daisy, born quietly after his relationship with Sasha was disclosed, posed an emotional threat, something he could cling to and fear losing. The custody stakes were high, and if he lost, he would lose not only contact with his 2 older children, but also his new, delicate relationship with Daisy. It was a decision motivated by dread as much as strategy. Michael's announcement came during a difficult moment when the protective network around him, Carly, Jason, and Sonny, jammed signals in an attempt to intercept his emotional flight from Port Charles. They told Michael that leaving may have major legal implications. In contrast, Michael saw it as the only way to keep Drew's plan from taking root and ripping his family apart. Meanwhile, Kai Taylor dropped a bombshell. He revealed to Trina that he overheard something he shouldn't have, an unsecured sliver of private talk. The nature of the overheard talk broke Kai's stillness. Perhaps it was related to Curtis and Portia's secret plan or Drew's custody ploys. Kai and Trina began figuring out what to do next after realizing he possessed information that others did not. They were aware that any disclosure would have ramifications. Portia had severe mental distress. Isaiah Gannon, sensitive and loving, advised she pull back, take a leave of absence or at least some distance, and regain clarity. As a physician, Portia sometimes treated herself too much like her own patient, concentrating over the details of her problems when she needed to step back and see the larger picture. Isaiah's quiet encouragement reminded her of the importance of reflection, prompting her to realign her purpose and perspective. Curtis made a decisive move. He called Felicia Scorpio, former WSB agent turned private investigator, to seek for help in locating Jacinda, the escort interwoven into their overall scheme against Drew. Her acceptance signaled the start of a secret mission in which Curtis planned to use Jacinda as leverage, ostensibly to oppose Drew's influence. It wasn't clear whether leverage meant testimony or intimidation, but the stakes were enormous. Felicia's investigative skills would be critical, and her involvement indicated that this was no trivial operation with legal and moral dangers. Whether this was professional, related to a project, or personal, Jordan's phrase, "You can trust me," suggested she was pursuing a deeper penetration. Jens was certainly involved in Cassidy's political scheming, and Jordan saw an opportunity. It was a chess match of psychological maneuvers. In another section of Port Charles, Martin Gray discovered Tracy Quartermain vulnerable, throwing a knowing remark, "You might need my services sooner than you think." He was fishing and testing the water. If Tracy was in difficulty, Martin prepared to intervene. Tracy, proud and wealthy, might never admit to needing assistance, but his bait hinted at a larger financial conspiracy brewing. A plot linked to Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong might. Back in the custody battle, Nina's rage caused Drew's arrogant leadership to crumble. She expressed her rage in private, accusing him of psychological warfare and messing with her grandson's emotions. Nina's struggle went beyond custody. It was about defending her grandson's innocence. Drew's manipulation of narrative struck her as dangerous sabotage, damaging hearts while referencing legal points. Willow entered the courtroom, with her mother Diane's testimony pending as part of the longer arc.